you beautiful people out there. Welcome back to the Single Parents Podcast, the first official podcast of the 2024 year. What is going on? I'm starting out this year by doing some singing because I'm feeling good and I'm excited about this show. And instantly, I just lost half of my audience. Sorry about that, but no, really, I'm super excited. I'm feeling really, really pumped about the show, about this new year, about the possibilities, all the things, people, all the things. So, you beautiful SPs out there, my fellow single moms, single dads, anybody out there, welcome to the show. Seriously, welcome to the show, whether you're coming on this journey with us for the first time. Maybe you just discovered the show and you want to say what's up. You want to check things out. You want to assess the vibes. Big hello to you. Or maybe you've just tolerated the show from the past episodes. Welcome. Glad you are here as well. I guess in case you are new, my name is Anthony, single dad of 2 little girls, host of this podcast, do a bunch of other stuff, running around. You all who are actual single parents watching this, I guess you don't have to be a single parent to watch this show or listen to the show or to consume the show, however you're taking it in. This show's for anybody whose life may have just turned out a little less than traditional. That's what we say here. But I'm assuming for the most part, a lot of you who check this out are single parents. So you get the chaos, you get the to and fro that you have to go all over the place because you're doing a million different things and you're wearing a million different hats, and you gotta be the chauffeur, and you gotta be the accountant, and you gotta be the maid, and you gotta be the chef, and you gotta be the tutor. You gotta do it all. You gotta do it all. You get it. And if that is you, then again, big welcome, because this show is particularly made with you in mind. The person who has to do it all solo, the person who is doing it all solo, the person who has been doing it all solo. This show was made with you in mind because we know it can feel a little lonely out there sometimes. Things can kind of feel a little isolating, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later in this episode. But just know that you got a family here, you got a community here, you got some homies here, and me, your boy Anthony, I'm leading the ship. I'm making sure all the vibes are good. I'm making sure we are nothing but a straight bop when it comes to podcast options out there.
Something to relate to.
So, yeah, I'm just, it's a new year, so this episode's coming out. It should be, hopefully, fingers crossed, the first episode of 2024 should have dropped on the first Wednesday of 2024. So if you're listening to this on that Wednesday, that means things were good. There's no hiccups or anything, so that's good to know. And next week's episode, little plug to stick around, to subscribe, to make sure you don't miss an episode in the future. Turn on automatic downloads, do all those things. Because on next week's episode, I'll talk a little bit about exactly where I am personally as I'm heading into this new year. Some things that I just kind of took away with from 2023 that I'm applying to 2024. Some crazy dating stories that ended my year last year that I'll kind of share a little bit about, of course. But we'll get to that next week. We'll do a whole nother episode about kind of where I'm at mentally, emotionally, physically, all that stuff. Because honestly, I wanted the first episode of 2024 to kind of be the show that really sets the mood for the rest of the year, that kind of sets the stage, the expectations, the vibes, whatever word you want to throw in there. I want this episode to be the one that kind of sets the precedent going forward. Because here's the thing, the Single Parents Podcast is officially in what I like to call its hot era. And maybe you saw my post on the socials over the weekend kind of talking a little bit about this, but let's dive in a little bit more as to what this whole hot era is all about. Okay, ready? Okay, so this is what's up. So basically, I kind of stopped recording episodes of the show last year. I think it was the end of November, maybe right before Thanksgiving, I think, is when I recorded my last episode last year. I think it was like right before December. Whatever, because I knew December is going to be crazy with the holidays and travel and just getting ready for the new year. And of course, all the stuff that the kids have going on and winter breaks. And so I was like, you know what? we'll just kind of be cool with just chilling for the month of December, and then we'll come back hard in January, because that'll also allow me some time to sit down and kind of vision cast a little bit for what I want the show to be about heading into a new year, set some goals for myself, kind of put some things out into the universe that I hope, and we're going to work really hard to see if we can make happen over the course of the next 365 days, all that stuff. So I was like, we'll just chill for December and do what we got to do. But what I also did in that time was kind of do some assessment on other single parent content around the interwebs, particularly on social media like Instagram and TikTok and all that. Because I was like, you know what? Like, if I'm going to be in this space, I got to know what else is out there, right? Like, I got to know what other people are doing, because, maybe we could collab in the future. Maybe they have some good ideas that I want to implement into this show. Maybe they have some good points I'd like to talk about. Or maybe I just need to see what's up. So I kind of just spent like a week going around, clicking on all the different hashtags and putting in all the keywords and just basically doing a search on single parent content and seeing what was out there. Now, admittedly, this next statement I'm about to make is a little bit of a generalization, so I get that. Not every video that I saw out there was like this. But for the most part, what I found was that a lot of the single parent content out there is honestly kind of a bummer. Like, it's really kind of a downer, if I'm being completely honest. Like, a lot of it is accompanied by like some very sad, overly dramatic music in the background. And it's usually somebody kind of like looking down like this, or a voiceover that's over serious, talking about how, you can be strong, you can do this, and one day things will change, and it's so hard, and yada, yada, yada. And it's just, the vibes were just kind of heavy, right? And now, first of all, I want to make very, very clear that as a single dad myself, again, real life single dad, not an actor, I'm not doing this just for the clout. I get it. I'm living the life. I know 100% that the single parent life is one that's not always easy. There's a lot of stuff to figure out. Talked at the beginning of this episode about all the different hats and things you got to juggle, and the busyness and the loneliness and the exhaustion. And we talk about those things often here on the show. So don't get things twisted with what I'm about to say. Like, being a single parent definitely it's an experience. We'll just say it like that. Takes a lot of strength, takes a lot of endurance, and we look to encourage each other through those things here on the show in particular. So that's true. But like, it's not always all so down and dramatic, and the skies aren't always constantly gray 24/7. Like, first of all, did you all know that there's actually people out there who choose to be single parents? Like, I know a lot of us are in this situation because maybe we've gone through divorce, like in my case, or maybe we've lost a loved one, or, there's a whole slew of scenarios out there for sure. But, there's some people out there who are just like, you know what? No, like, I just wanted to raise my kids and do it my way, and it's just me, and maybe I adopted, or maybe I did this treatment, and whatever it is. Like, there's people out there who are just like, no, I'm fine being a single parent. Or there's people out there who became a single parent through one of those traditional means like divorce or whatever, or loss of a loved one or whatever, and they're currently doing the single parent thing. And they're like, you know what? Actually, I'm good just kind of doing this and doing me and spending time on my kids. Like, maybe going on dates and stuff like that is cool every now and again, and having fun is cool. But like, my end goal is not to meet somebody so I can be in a relationship or get married one day again and take me out of this single parent life. Like, there's some people who are just like, you know what? Like, I'm in this situation. I'm doing it. It's not that bad. I'm surviving. We're making it. Life is cool. Like, there's people out there who are just like, I'm good. And also there's people out there who are single parents who maybe would desire to be in a relationship or be married again or to whatever. And sure, maybe they'll get there one day. But for right now, they're single parents, and they're just, doing the best they can. They're having fun. They're enjoying their kids. They're pressing on through. And like I said, there's definitely some hard days and hard times, but it's not always constantly so sad to be a single parent. No, And so I was like, this is the main vibe of the content that's out there for us SPs. Like, I don't know about that. Like, I think what I want this show to really strive for in 2024, as we all are going to talk about the realities of this life for sure, but I want this show to be one that also uplifts and encourage and has some positivity when it comes to the single parent life. Hence the hot era, because honestly, in a lot of ways, it is super freaking hot to be a single parent, to be a single mom, to be a single dad. There's a lot of hot aspects about it. Like really quick, one from my life just last night. So I was hungry for dinner, just got off work. I was like, what do I want for dinner? The girls are with their mom this week, so I can get whatever I want without whining and complaining and picky eaters. So I was like, Chinese food, because that's one thing my kids do not like. And so if I want it, I got to get it when they're at their mom's house. So I went into our local Chinese spot, and I kid you not, guys, I walk into this restaurant and I see the most beautiful woman working behind the register. No idea who she is, no idea her story. I've never seen her before, so this is all just appearance based, right? But I was like, oh my gosh, to the point where it's one of those things, she was so beautiful that I started getting nervous. And so like I was messing up my debit card, and it took a while for the little machine to read the payment. So I was kind of standing there awkward, and I was like, should I say hi or say anything? And she was just there smiling with her beautiful smile. And like, she was like one of those type of people to where it's just kind of like uncomfortable how beautiful they are. And so I left, and I was like, man, I really spent a lot of time in that restaurant appreciating that beautiful woman right there. And for a second, I kind of felt guilty because I did, took a lot of headspace while I was in the restaurant. But then I was like, well, why? Why feel guilty about admiring somebody who I find attractive? Like, again, being a single parent, being single, that word single, beginning of single parents, single means that, I'm free to do that and have those thoughts. And I don't have to come back and confess to anybody like, oh no, so I just had these thoughts about, like, I don't have to try to hide it. Like, that's just a random, weird, kind of petty example. I understand, but you all get what I'm saying. It can be super hot. First of all, not even just that, the experience of being a single parent can be hot, but we're all hot ourselves. Single parents are baddies. Single parents are strong. Like, think about all it takes to be a consistent, healthy, stable single mom or single dad. Takes a lot of strength emotionally and mentally, and heck, even physically. And so you think about all of those characteristics bundled up in one person who's doing all those things every single day. That's pretty hot. That's the definition of a baddie right there, if you ask me. And so we should be proud of ourselves. We should be encouraged by ourselves. So hence, that's why this is the hot era of the Single Parents Podcast. We are going hot. We are going sexy. We are going big. And we are not going to be ashamed about the fact that we are single parents this year. No, 2024 is going to be so spicy, y'all. We're going all the way hot. You heard of the podcast, Call Her Daddy? Yeah, we're going that level of hot this year. So call me the Alex Cooper of the Single Parents Podcast, because we are going big and we are going steamy. Actually, you know what? Don't just call me the Alex Cooper of the Single Parents Podcast. I want this podcast to be so known for being so hot for single parents out there that we get the attention of Alex Cooper, because I know she has, like, you Call Her Daddy and whatever, has her own podcast hosting network out there called Unwell. Like, how awesome would it be if single parents just became so known for being such baddies that it got her attention, and this show got invited to be a part of the Unwell network out there? Yeah, I'm putting it out there. Go ahead, start tagging Alex, start tagging her network. We're not going to be ashamed. We're owning this thing, and we're owning this thing big. So Alex, if you're watching Single Parents Podcast, we're looking for a network to join, or I guess anybody out there with a legit podcast hosted network out there. Love to talk to you. Shoot me an email, thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. But in the meantime, we're doing our thing, and we're doing our thing hot. So in 2024, the Single Parents Podcast is going to be the show that changes the vibes, that changes the perspectives, that changes the stigma out there on single parent content.
Something to think about.
So I was recently talking with one of my friends who's a single mom of 3 kids, 3 pretty young kids. I think her oldest is like 8. And I was just talking to her about kind of what's going on, her life, her experiences, kind of recently, everything she's working through as a single mom. And she said something pretty interesting to me that I kind of wanted to share a little bit about on the show today. She was talking about everything that she's working towards personally, heading into the new year. She just had a whole bunch of life changes go down throughout 2023, like moving and just a whole bunch of stuff. And so she was like, you know what, Anthony, I think one thing I'm really working on right now is reminding myself of the fact that I am more than just a single mom. Actually, you know what? She put it like this. Being a single mom is not my purpose. Yeah, it's a big part of who I am, and it describes a lot about me in this stage of life right now. But as far as like my overall purpose in life, being a single mom, that's not it. That's not what ultimately defines me. And so she was going on to say, so the things I want to do as I kind of work towards my own personal goals for this new year are going to be centered around the fact that I can strive for things, I could work towards things, I can have my ambitions that are outside of just always having to be a single mom and be defined by the fact that I'm a single mom. Like there's things I want to try, there's hobbies I want to pursue, there's aspects of myself that don't necessarily have to do with motherhood that I still want to make sure I'm living into in this new year. And I kind of walked away from that conversation very encouraged and very honestly like enlightened, because I think she made a really, really good point. Because it's really easy as a single parent, as hot and awesome as we are. We just talked about that in the first segment of the show. Like, for sure, we get it. That's just not all that we are, though. Like, we're also humans. We're also maybe friends to a lot of people. We're also maybe perhaps sons or daughters or brothers or sisters or employees or people with interest in different things, and people with different perspectives and people with different ideas and sense of humors. Like that's what's cool about just people in general and humanity in general, is that we're not just one thing, and we don't have to just fit in this one box and call it good and say, all right, well, that's what you are. That's the label society has given you. That's the label that life has placed upon you. So that just has to be who you are and all that you are for all of eternity. No, humans are definitely more complex than that. And we as single parents, we're more complex than that. So for sure, the fact that we are single moms, single dads out here doing our thing does consume a large part of who we are. Practically, that takes up a lot of our life and a lot of our time and maybe a lot of our headspace and a lot of our, it impacts a lot of our decisions, and all those things are definitely true. But I think there's something interesting about remembering that that's not ultimately our purpose, because I think when we make it our full purpose, when we make it our full identity, then that's when we start getting into a little bit of trouble, in my opinion. Because by living that way, it's easy to run into a lot of exhaustion and fatigue from always trying to run on that hamster wheel that is the single parent life all the time and never stepping off to take a break or to pursue other things or to self-care or do anything. But also, like, that's just also not healthy, because the thing with parenthood is, I don't know if you all knew this, but eventually it's going to end. I mean, unless you just keep having kids for the rest of your life and you just have a million kids up until you die. Like, sure, I guess you could do that. But for most of us, say for me, I have two daughters, 8 and 7. Don't know why I almost forgot their ages. But 8 and 7. So the goal is to raise them over the next 10 years or so, for them to develop within themselves, grow their own sense of identity, develop their own interests, get their own education, have their own goals and ambitions, to where they're going to go out and they're going to do their own thing. They're going to have their own lives. And if they choose, they're going to get into their own relationships or move away or start a new job or start a business or whatever. They're going to grow, and they're not always going to be my 7 and 8-year-old daughters living in my house, spilling chocolate milk on the floor all the time. They're going to grow. So for my whole purpose to be wrapped around being a single dad, for my whole identity to be consumed with being their dad 24/7, there's nothing else to me. There's no depth behind me besides that label. That's very limiting, and that's very short-sighted, because guess what's going to happen? when they do move out and start forming their own lives, and I'm just kind of sitting here by myself now, I'm going to have no real understanding of who I am anymore because I put all of myself into being just that one thing. So when that one thing gets removed or that one thing really changes in a big dramatic way, I guess that's when you hear people going into like midlife crises or identity crises or just going off the rails because their whole sense of self has now dramatically been altered. So instead of waiting till that happens, waiting till my kids are 18, 19, whatever, and they go out and they have their own adventures, instead of waiting until then to start saying like, okay, well, my kids are out of the house, so I guess I should figure out who I am now and figure out what I'm going to do. Instead of waiting until then, kind of like my friend was talking about, what would it look like for me to start doing that investigation and self-discovery right now and implementing that into my life right now? So that way, over the next 10 years or so, I am learning more about myself every day. I am setting goals for myself every day. I am defining myself outside of just being a single parent every day. And also, I think that's ultimately healthy for our relationship with our kids as well. Because if our whole sense of self is wrapped up around them, then that can feel very constricting to them. That could feel like a big burden and weight on their own shoulders, carrying the fact that their parents' whole sense of self is placed upon them. Like, that's a lot. But for me to have my own sense of self and my own personal boundaries outside of my kids is cool, because for my context, having my kids week on, week off, doing the whole co-parenting thing, I have 1 week where I could just really pour into my kids, focus on being a dad and doing all the millions of different things or whatever. But when the girls are with their mom that whole week that they're at her house, then I have a whole week of really just me being able to do a lot of that self-discovery stuff and understanding myself. And I'm not just sitting here looking at my watch, counting down the days, rocking back and forth, saying, I can't wait till the girls come home. I can't wait till the girls come home. I can't wait till the girls come home. Like, obviously, I miss them and I want them to come home ASAP. But it gives me a good opportunity to do things like this podcast, like invest in some friendships, like to invest in some extra time in myself, to develop my own purpose outside of the single dad label, all those different things. And so maybe you don't have the ability to spend a whole week away from your kids. Maybe you're a full-time single parent and it's you and the kids 24/7. I would just say still maybe keep that in mind. Something to think about. That's what the segment's titled. Something to think about might be what it looks like for you to carve out some time, even if it's for 10 minutes, 15 minutes after the kids go to bed, or whenever you can get it, to really invest in your own self and to define your own self-purpose outside of being a single mom or single dad. Try that and then let me know what you discover. Let me know what you think. We do have an email address, thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. You can use that to write in, share your thoughts, stories, and perspectives, or just follow us across the social media platforms. DM us with what you got. Definitely would like to hear what this journey looks like for you.
Something to be encouraged by.
So I just wanted to end today's show by reading a post that I saw on one of my friend's social media stories this week from an Amy Dickinson. No idea who that is. Maybe you do, but I'm just going to read one of her quotes here. Hopefully she's not a bad person that I shouldn't be promoting, but I'm just going to read this post that says, when you're a single parent, you're often lonely, yet seldom alone. There is no backup. It is mothering without a net, or fathering. It is mothering or fathering without a net. I thought that was a pretty deep line. You're often lonely, but seldom alone. I think that definitely can be true. So as I said at the beginning of the show, as I was kind of hyping up this hot era that we're in, there are a lot of legit badass things about being a single parent, but there are definitely aspects of it that are a little bit more challenging to navigate, or take a little bit more strength rather to navigate. And that topic of loneliness definitely is one, because it can definitely feel very isolating being a single parent. I mean, I can't tell you how many single parents I've talked to who just say, yeah, I just kind of basically hang out with my kids all day or all the time. Like, it's me and my kids. My best friend's my son, or my best friend's my daughter. I have friends, but we don't really get to hang out a whole lot because my son has this going on, or my daughter's been sick, or this and that, and it is just you as the only adult in the house. And so trying to break away and go do fun things and events and date nights and things like that become a little bit more challenging, and perhaps can happen less frequently compared to our friends in two-parent households, or compared to our friends who just are single and don't have any kids in general. It's definitely true, and it's definitely a big part of the reality. But to that, I would say, number one, just know that even though you might feel alone in your house or just in your context in general, remember, because this is what helps me, to be super honest, is remembering the fact that you are not alone in the situation in terms of the only person out there who can understand and to relate to what's going on in your life right now. Because to be super honest, super transparent, when I get the lowest in my single parent day-to-day life is when I think that, well, nobody else can get this. Nobody else understands what it's like and how hard it is. Nobody understands how exhausting and lonely it can be. Like, nobody else has been through this. And I kind of get into this like navel gazing, self-pity mode. Like, you probably get it. You've probably been there before. But then what I have to do is sometimes it's just go have conversations with other people, or just get online and read other people's stories and remind myself that I'm not the only single dad or single parent out there who gets this. There are lots of single moms and dads out there who 100% can relate and empathize with what I'm going through. And I think that's honestly a big reason why I started this show a while back in the first place. A lot of it, I was to create a space for single parents to come and to celebrate and to be encouraged and all that. But really, to be super, super transparent, it was for my own selfishness, needing a venue where I could create a space where I could be reminded that I'm not alone in my day-to-day life as a single parent. So by me doing this, by me putting this out there and sharing this, I have had people reach out and share their stories, and it's just really done a lot of good for my own sense of self, reminding myself that I'm not truly alone. Yeah, maybe practically in my house, I'm the only adult, and that can definitely feel lonely. I get that, but big picture wise, there are a lot of people out there who can relate and who want to lift me up, and who we can joke about how crazy it is trying to find a date as a single parent out there. We get that, and that's what the show is. So just remember that for yourself, I would say. But the second thing I would say is, don't let that loneliness kind of impact your judgment when it comes to making decisions and putting yourself in circumstances just to simply maybe get rid of that sense of loneliness that you're experiencing. Because I think, unfortunately, I know a lot of people, and I've fallen into this trap too, where that sense of loneliness really hits hard, and you're just like, I can't do this anymore. So there's that person right there. Normally on my best day, that person doesn't even come close to being somebody that I would normally pursue when it comes to my own boundaries and standards, things that I've set for myself. I keep those up here, and I don't want to deviate for that. But then my sense of loneliness really hits, and it starts to push those standards and boundaries lower and lower and lower. So now I'm at the level of a person who's available. They're there. They're sliding into my DMs. They want to hang out, but I guess I'll do it. I guess I'll give them the time of day. I guess I'll invite them over. I guess I'll bring them around my kids just because, hey, it's better than being alone, right? Then, unfortunately, usually what happens is that situation doesn't always turn out so good, because the standards and boundaries had to be lowered so low to let this person in that things just kind of get messy sometimes, and things get complicated and people get hurt. All because instead of standing strong and saying, you know what, yes, I'm really lonely right now, but I need to endure. I need to keep myself high, keep my chin high, keep my standards and boundaries high, keep all the things I've set for me and my kids as top priority, and not deviate from that just because I'm feeling lonely. Let me maybe go find different ways to help with my loneliness. Let me go online and be a part of a podcast community. Let me go to some events when I can and meet some friends. Let me just try to do everything that I can to address this sense of loneliness, so that way it doesn't start watering down my standards in life and letting some cracks develop that probably shouldn't be there. Does that make sense? I think we just need to really make sure that we're handling our loneliness with strength and with dignity, even though that can often be a lot easier said than done. I definitely get that. But remember, being in this hot era also means we're staying hot, we're staying bold, we're staying encouraged, we're keeping our heads held high, and we're not going to let anything, even our own sense of loneliness, bring us down anymore as single parents. We're not going to let anyone, even our own selves, even our own circumstances, start allowing us to compromise who we want to be in life as single parents, as moms or dads. So there's a lot of truth to that quote, 100%. But again, we're going to be very careful with our mindset in 2024. We're not going to let even quotes like this drag us down and, oh man, being a single parent is life without a safety net. It's so hard. Wish I could meet somebody. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to read the reality. Sure, being a single parent can often be lonely, can often feel like it's life without a safety net. But you know what? I'm staying strong. I'm going to do this the right way. I'm a baddie. I can do this. We're not going to compromise. We're not going to water down our standards. We're going to press on, and we're going to do things the right way. That is the hot era mentality we're really going to be leaning into. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Single Parents Podcast. My name's Anthony, and until next time, you all just keep doing the best you can. Bye.